Well, you'll be happy to know that my 9th book, which is called The Uncreated Creations, not only has it been finished and it's gone through its first editing, it's also been sent to the publisher. So it's gone. It's on its way. It's gone there 2 ways. One is via electronic upload. It's loaded the manuscript up to their website, and 2, I've sent it the old-fashioned way, a paper manuscript, just in case.
I love the paper way.
Yeah.
I like to hold something in the hand to read.
Well, I think so. Yeah. I also think that it might end up going in the normal queue, because the normal queue of people is it's in the system. If you've got the paper copy in your hand and being an existing author with them, then that gives it a bit more what's it, impetus to be seen first, or maybe earlier than it would do if it went to the back of the queue.
That's nice. That's hard work.
Exciting, yeah. I've got a little bit more to do, a little bit more editing to do. There's another lady called Rosie, I think she's currently in Hong Kong still. She's an English lady who's been working in one of the universities there for some time, and she's been doing the in-depth editing. So that'll happen in between now and when they give me if they give me a contract, then I'm going to give them the best digital copy I've got, and that'll be after this actually 3rd level of editing. Then they go through their own editing, they go through their own proofreading and things. So it's quite interesting. It's hard work, actually, very hard work.
Okay. Congratulations for the book.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I actually really have a lot of questions.
Let's get on with them then, shall we? Let's get on with all these questions.
Yeah, we all know what is happening right now, especially in Europe, this war. And we don't go into the detail, but just want to know what is the purpose of the conflict and war?
It's basically it's one of 3 things that are happening. It's one of 3 signposts for us collectively on this planet. The first signpost is we need to look after the environment better. So we're having climate change, which isn't specifically to do with us, but we do have a contribution towards it in terms of how we treat our home planet, and how we abuse it, I should say. The second one was to do with being a low frequency, which creates the possibility of being affected by disease, and the COVID pandemic is an example of how that can happen when we're all collectively dropping down the frequencies. Because as we drop down the frequencies, we become more gross physical. As we become more gross physical, we get susceptible to disease and dysfunction. And the third one is interaction, and that interaction should be good. We should be in communion with each other. We should be working together and being of service to each other. But right now we've got conflict. So we've got conflict being the third part, when we should be working in communion together. So the 3 things. These are 3 milestones, and this creates a triangulation of milestones. We've got the environment, we've got the lower frequencies creating biological dysfunction, and also mental dysfunction as well. The mental health issues have rocketed over the past 5 years, and now we've got conflict because we're not working together properly, which we're thinking of ourselves rather than us collectively on the planet. And you can see how that happens. And at the end of the day, very, very quickly, at the end of the day, it won't stop at Ukraine. So that there has to be a world response, and that's what it's all about—a world response. Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned the low frequency and also this virus pandemic. There is a theory says the pandemic is it's not from the nature. The virus is not from the nature, but it's man-made, military-made, and So can I understand then it's because of this low frequency people, they...
Well, basically, all viruses mutate. Everything mutates. We mutate, we get older, we change. You know, the body, every 7 years, we've got a completely new set of cells across the whole body. So and as we get older because those cells don't reproduce correctly. So things go wrong, and therefore we lose our hair, it goes grey, we get wrinkles. You know, things aren't reproduced correctly. So everything mutates, everything changes, everything adapts to the environment that it's in. So when we are higher frequency, we are we're more diffuse. We still look gross physical from our perspective, but we're more diffuse, and that means that things like viruses can't attach themselves to us because our cellular structure isn't thick, isn't solid. So things pass through it. So when we are higher frequency, all these different things that would attach to us if we're a lower frequency go straight through us or don't get attached to us. But when we're a lower frequency, they're able to attach to us, and so that's why you tend to find that in general, and I am being generalizing here, the people who seem to suffer the most with disease seem to be those who are more materialistic. You don't tend to see very high frequency people who suffer from illnesses associated with disease or mental dysfunction or physical dysfunction resulting from energetic dysfunction.
Okay.
So basically that's why we don't. Yeah, we've been subject to this particular virus, and it isn't man-made. It's a mutation of an existing virus. That's all, and it's just that it got discovered by one person who just happened to be in a certain part of the planet. If it ended up being discovered by somebody in London, then I wonder whether the same fingers would have been pointing towards the UK. I think that it's at the end of the day, somebody discovered it. Somebody had to put their hands up and say, "We found this." To say whether it was being studied in the lab is a different thing. But at the end of the day, it's a natural phenomenon, and there'll be more and more of these natural phenomena.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And just now we talk about the war. So even if it's for interaction, to have more communication, let's say this, but still somebody made it happen, and it causing people injured and die, and people lost their family. What is that for? I mean, for the people who lost their family, for people who lost their home.
Yeah, I mean, from a human perspective, it's absolutely appalling, and it's terrible for those people who are immersed in their incarnation because they always see the human side of what they are. So from their perspective, the strife and the struggle and the fear and the desperation that they're experiencing is unfathomable. We just can't understand it. We can't put ourselves in their position unless we're actually experiencing it ourselves. But from a higher perspective, these individuals, before they became incarnate, they agreed to be part of this so that the rest of the world could start to work together against the potential for one individual or a number of individuals creating the condition. So they entered into a pre-incarnation agreement to leave the planet or to stay in levels of difficulty as a means of collectively helping the rest of the world see that it's wrong, and the rest of the world collectively working together to correct the problem. So if you like, they actively sacrifice being here, so that we can all collectively start to evolve beyond this type of need to interact.
So we chose this happen collectively.
Yes. Well, we chose the possibility, and if the possibility happened, then we chose, then we agreed with how our function might be within that possibility.
Okay, and the purpose is to show, to help other people to see, to show, and we need to learn from that. But where does the aspect of healing coming in?
The aspect of healing is everybody working together. If you we see a little bit of it with the environment, but nowhere near enough. Where people group together, they demonstrate, they put themselves, their lives on the line by stopping big corporations from destroying trees or rainforests to make it more useful for crops, or for cutting the trees down for wood to create paper, for example. With the pandemic, people started to work together to help each other. And they sort of sacrificed their own desires or demands to help others collectively. So we started to see this this camaraderie that we haven't seen really since the First and Second World War in Europe. And now we've got the same problem in Ukraine. We're starting to see that we need to work together again. So we've got these three levels of working together: the environment, by keeping ourselves high frequency, but helping others who are ill, or can't get things like shopping, or pay for things like heat, heating in the house. And we also have this other side where we're offering homes to people who are displaced as a function of war, until the war is finished, and then they can start to go back to their homeland and rebuild. So it's all about working. It's all about creating a condition where we need to stop and think, and start to work together to correct a bad situation.
But what was the bad situation in the past? I mean, before the war, before all this happened.
Basically, we were becoming very materialistic, very selfish, very one-sided, and everything revolves around material wealth, status, and belongings, basically. But you can really sort of bring it down to two things: material wealth and status. That's it. And those are the two things that people crave. And you can see how we've gone that way, because we have these reality TV shows now, and people just want to be famous through being famous, through being seen on television, through being seen by lots of people. People will do lots of things to go onto television now. What's the point? The point is, for them, people see them, and they become famous for being seen. So again, it's status, isn't it? I mean, I was reading a thing on the internet the 2 days ago about these number of people who are very rich people, and how much they spend a year on bodyguards. It's amazing how much they spend on bodyguards. Why? They wanted to be famous, but then they don't want to have the hassle associated with their fans, crowding around them. So they have to hire people to protect them. And there was one lady there who's worth nearly $1 billion, who spends $450,000 a year on, or even more actually. I think probably might even have been a couple of $1 million a year. I think even 4 million actually. I'll have to look at the figures again. But she spends a lot of money on being protected, and the way she's got wealthy is because she was on reality TV. She was an ordinary person who applied to be on one of these ridiculous reality TV shows, and then used that fame to create a another status symbol company, a perfume company, and it's just taken off. You know, and so in the space of no more than 10 years, she's gone from zero to hero, and people see that and want to be it. But it's all about money and status. That's all it is. Material wealth and status.
Does it mean we have to say thank you for those the world leaders who led us into the war?
We don't have to say thank you to them, but we have to recognize that in a bigger picture, they are playing a part, which is a very difficult part to play, because when you're the focus of so much anger, and that anger is created when the world works together against you because you're doing something that the world doesn't want, but that's the only way the world will work together, then it's still very difficult. So you have to feel some sort of compassion for them. But that's on a higher level, not the human level. On the human level, people just don't understand it at all. You know, and at the human level, you can see that those individuals need to be removed from office because they're just causing a problem. The issue is that when we need to go to a point where we go beyond little return to normal part. I mean, we talk about the new norm, the new norm, that. There will never be a new norm. Everything goes back eventually. You know, everything goes back eventually. Back to where it was. Everything returns back. But the idea is not to return back, and we'll need to go down a very dark hole before we start to realize that we can't go back, and we do have to have a new norm. And that new norm is to be a responsible, caring, service-orientated civilization that is not only just caring for everybody on the planet, making everybody equal, and providing for everybody in an equal way. So there's no famine, there's no illness, there's no poverty, and also the environment's looked after. We start to rebuild the environment. That's the only way that we're going. The human body as a collective civilization is going to survive, and it's the only way when we start to become collectively civilized, thinking of each other rather than ourselves, and all being equal, that we will rise through the frequencies to a level where we'll start to become capable of interacting with other civilizations within the physical universe, not just in our galaxy, but in other frequencies within the galaxy and other galaxies within the different frequencies within the physical universe.
Okay, then for those still call them evil leader, and and also for the followers, and also for people like us. So who gains the most karma? Who actually evolve most?
It's not really about individuals gaining karma. That individual will do, although it's in a tyrannical role.
Okay.
You know, a megalomaniac role will be a very evolved entity, and they'll need to be that to combat the significant amount of karma that is created through their actions. So they will create karma, but they'll have to use their evolutionary level to dissolve it. Whereas the rest of us need to dissolve the karmic links we have with others that we've created, and forgive ourselves and forgive our enemies, and make all of our enemies our friends.
Okay.
And make them our brothers and sisters, and those brothers and sisters that are loved, trusted, and will help us and we'll help them.
Okay, so that's the bigger picture that's above this in energetic level and spiritual level. But most of the people, it's not spiritual. we can understand. So how can those people, how can most of the people to cope with this, and how, I mean, we cannot tell them, hey, you will evolve, we should see the positive, they will hate me. So yeah, they lost the family. I could not tell them, hey, be happy. That's not possible. So how?
Exactly. We can't help them. All we can do is lead by example, and that leading by example is by doing the right thing, providing help, providing resources, providing the right thought processes, by saying things in the right way. Those are the ways in which we can help them. And that will plant the seed in their minds to change the way that they interact with others. Even those who are good people can improve, we can all improve, so that we start to become a more caring, sharing, service-based civilization through people's natural desire to change the way they are. If you look at the way people interact now compared to how they used to interact in the Second World War, for example, just afterwards, it's appalling. People had respect for each other just after even before the wars, before the First and Second World War. People had respect for each other. They had respect for who they were interacting with. They had respect for the environment. They had the respect for the infrastructure, whatever infrastructure that was there at the time. But now people just think of it as being it's their given right to have things, to destroy things when they want to deface them with graffiti, and it's not. Civilization in that right now is just totally selfish, full stop. And in general, they are not very evolved in terms of the way they think, behave, and act, because of the low frequencies.
Is there dark, or are there dark entities?
There are not so much dark entities in terms of, are they sort of, like the devils, animals, those sorts of things. These different minions that are supposed to follow the devil that you see in books and things. Basically, there are entities that are incarnate that are operating above all of the governing structure that is around the world. So part of that is what you would call the Illuminati. And if you look at it, one of the ways in which it's acting negatively, and one of the ways in which it's trying to make us go down the frequencies, is to stop us being in communion. So things like the UK leaving the EU is the UK is moving out of communion. Things like Wales or Scotland or Ireland wanting to leave the UK are, again, those areas wanting to leave being in communion. So it's like a divide and conquer thing, where they sort of removing this desire to be part of a collective group of individuals or even countries, to making it back into little villages again. And that's what this higher force is doing. But it's up to us to spot this and choose not to let it happen.
Okay. Because of the war, because of all these things. So and it also maybe linked to the story of Bible story, or maybe I don't know, probably it's true. So in many years ago, then Moses was wandering with I don't know how many people in deserts for 40 years, because those people how do you say, you cannot turn them to a better person. You can't change them. And do you know that story? I'm sure you know, but maybe I do not.
Yeah. He was taking them to the promised land, basically, and the whole point was that those 40 years was supposed to not be that long. Actually, it's supposed to be significantly shorter. The whole point of it was the promised land isn't a place you go to; it's what you create. So the whole point of Moses keeping the Israelites or whoever they were, moving around nomadically until they found this promised land, was he was trying to get them to think, behave, and act in a higher, more evolved way. And only when they got to that way would he say, "We've got here." It's because the promised land isn't a place you go to; it's in there.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
it's how we think, behave, and act, how we behave with each other in an evolved way.
The reason I link to that is also because recently there's something happened, or it's not recently something happened. It happened a lot, but it's exposed, discovered. Then there are many human trafficking, especially for children and female in mainland China. They sold them. They sold them to the remote villages and then locked them there. And because they couldn't afford, or they couldn't find a wife or something, the whole village or the whole area, they just think it's not normal, but they think it's normal, and then they behave, and then they help each other to cover up. They help each other to really treat those women badly. And these people, when you talk to them, they just think they haven't done anything wrong. And these people, I mean, even I have learned spiritual. I am spiritual, but still, I really felt like they should go into the desert for 40 years because they don't deserve. I mean, I have no right to judge, but still, all those people, how shall we see them?
Oh, how do you mean? How should we see them? How do we? What do we think about them?
Yeah, what do we think about them?
Again, it's a from a human perspective, it's a tragedy, and it's wrong that they are trafficked, and it's wrong that they are programmed in this way. Totally wrong. However, it's something that they would have chosen to experience before they incarnated. And even though it's horrendous, absolutely horrendous, and I've seen some things which I've heard some stories as well of people who have basically identified that some of these things happen, but there's not a lot you can do about it because of the way those individuals who control it are operating that in this, they're above the law, so to speak. And sometimes the law is part of them. So it's very difficult to really say we condone it when we don't. It's horrendous, but it definitely is something these souls wanted to experience. And these souls are evolved souls, and they have to be evolved souls to survive the human tragedy that they are deciding to partake in, to allow them to receive significant evolutionary progression as a function of experiencing it.
Even those people who created those tragedies?
Yes, even those, they will be experiencing being. I mean, they will be experiencing being the perpetrators of this type of function. And may well be that they experience it from the other side later. When they do another incarnation, maybe they will be trafficked in another incarnation, or maybe they were trafficked in the first thing in a prior incarnation. So it's not a case of they people choose one side and not the other. The karmic aspect of it is they have to have the yin and the yang. They have to experience one side and then the other side. So those who have been trafficked will have been traffickers, or may be traffickers in the future incarnation. Those who are the traffickers may have been trafficked, or may end up being trafficked in the future. So they have to experience all of this. Yeah.
Okay, I still have a lot of questions, but I think maybe Tom also have questions. I just keep talking and then did not give you any chance. Tom, you can ask your questions.
Okay.
Yes, guys. I have a different. My question are different angle. Okay, it's more related to myself. Well, it's not just myself. I think a lot of people have maybe the same type of question. When people ask me, do you know what you do in your life, and what is your life mission? And I thought I know, but then I don't really know, to be honest. So the first question is, how to uncode my life mission or people's life mission?
How to unfold or encode
or find out the life mission.
It's actually very easy.
Really?
Yeah, it is. It is very easy. But the thing is, people want to see everything. People want to see, oh, what have I got to do? And if you told them everything, they'd just fall over. They would probably reject what their life purpose is supposed to be, because they see everything in one go. So we're only really allowed to see little steps.
Okay.
Now, those little steps are presented to us, and we're sort of nudged into them by our guide and helpers. So one of the ways we know that we're going in the right direction is we have desires to do certain things. So a desire to do something is part of your life plan. If something presents itself to you, like a circumstance or an opportunity within a circumstance, you feel attracted to it, then that is part of your life plan, to experience that experience. I remember a long time ago when I did my 2 master's degrees, I felt drawn to doing the first part of the MBA, which was just basically a certificate in business, a postgraduate certificate in business administration. It was quite a low level certificate, but I felt drawn to do that, and then I felt drawn to go to the next level, diploma. Then I felt drawn to do the master's degree as a functionalist, and then later, literally 2 years later, I got drawn. I felt a desire, a passion to become a chartered engineer, and then I did that. And then whilst that was happening, another master's degree came along, one that was to do with science, but within the work I was doing at work, and I felt really drawn towards doing that. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. In fact, I had a really hard time with the maths involved with the master's degree I did do in it was color imaging and it was color science and imaging technologies. It was to do with new display technologies, and it was really hard. But I knew I had to do it. Now, these things individually are little steps. The big step is that when I'd finished the master's degree, I went back into my spiritual work. I started to learn to be a healer, etc., etc. So that was me going back into the spiritual side. Again, I'd previously ignored it for years. The spiritual side, I was interested, but not really, getting deep into it. But then a big switch came down, and I wanted to get involved with it. And then when one thing didn't work right. I mean, I didn't do very well as a healing practitioner. Then I didn't get many. I think I had 2 clients in a year. That was it. I started to do meditation, the meditation side of it, and channel information for the books. The information for the books was easier to write because I'd done all the work on the master's degrees and the chartered engineer. So I learned how to analyze things, how to ask questions, and how to write. So you start to see that these little steps create the condition to where I am now, and I'm still taking little steps. So how do you know your life plan? Some people know they want to be a doctor. They feel drawn to be a doctor. They feel drawn to be a lawyer. They feel drawn to be to create a business of some sort. They feel drawn to be a monk or a nun or somebody who works in third world countries to help people who are struggling. You know, some people are drawn towards being an explorer. These are the things that tell you that you're working with your life plan. You won't know your life plan until what's happening around you is it feels right. I should be doing this. I want to do this. I feel drawn to it. That's when you know you're in the stream of your life plan. You only really know your life plan just before you die, because then you've completed it basically. But knowing the big picture at the start will just put us off. Yeah? If Jeff Bezos could see the massive world organization that he created to date back in 1995, when he first started the idea of selling from his garage, he would never have done it, because it would have been too much information. How am I going to do this? I can't see myself doing that. Wow, yeah, the logistics of this, the whole thing would have been just too much to take on board. So we're only giving little bits. But when we feel desires to go in a certain direction, or feelings that or want to do certain things, or things feel right, then we know we're in the stream, the event stream associated with our life plan.
Wow, that's very good. Eye-opening answer, guys. So if okay, that means everybody is kind of doing their mission at the moment. Most of us, right? But we just don't know the life mission, because hopefully by the last day or last minutes of my life, I can find out my life mission.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong, some people do have a really strong sense of what they've got to do, and they are individuals who are destined, or decided to, not destined to, they're decided to make a big difference in some way, shape, or form. And provided they follow their initiative and their intuition to do certain things at certain times, then the doors will always be open for them to fulfill that end goal. I mean, for instance, Mother Teresa and Jesus and the Buddha and Muhammad, Confucius, Socrates, Plato, Archimedes. These people knew that they wanted to be what they were, and so everything they did led towards that. But they only knew that this was their life plan when they've reached the pinnacle of that life plan. Oh, right, okay, yeah. Leonardo da Vinci, yeah, he was seeing things and inventing things and creating things that were well ahead of his time. When he must have thought at some point, this is what I am. So but you'll also have seen the points up to that were leading up to it.
Okay. So yeah, we all doing a little part of our mission at the moment, right? And little by little, every step. And so how how we start doing our mission already. How can we make sure what we're doing we can give a good job of this for our mission? How can we do it properly? That's another question.
Everything we do, everything that gets put in front of us, everything that's a challenge, we need to do responsibly and do to the best of our ability. That means that when, for instance, we go shopping, we have to make a robust shopping list. We have to know exactly what we're going to buy, where it's going to be, where we're going to pick it from in the supermarket, and where we're going to go home. So we don't waste time. We don't buy the wrong produce. We don't buy too much produce or not enough produce. It's quality. It's the quality associated with and the robustness of what we do, and taking responsibility for ensuring we have a robust level of quality associated with what we do as well is the most important thing. That's how we make sure we do the best we can. Now, there are going to be times, always, where we look back and think, I didn't do that very well, I could do it better next time. Well, of course you can. But if at the time you're doing the best you can, you're taking the right decisions to solve the problem or address the interaction or the detail behind the interaction that you're having with other people or with the work that you're doing, then you're doing it conscientiously, then you are definitely doing the best you can. You know, I liken this to working on my old car in Greece. The tools I have in Greece are nowhere near the quality or the diverseness, the lots of different tools that I have here. But it doesn't stop me doing the work I do, because I have to think around how I can use these limited number of tools to do the work that I would normally have lots of tools to be able to do. It's taking on board the challenge and doing it and not failing, doing it in high quality with what you've got. Of course, you can do better with better tools. Of course, you can do better when you think about it, in the future, what you did in the past. Of course. Experience is the creation of tools. And next time we have that experience, we can use better tools.
Very good. Okay. So follow our instinct. Follow that. That's
follow your instinct, follow your intuition, and don't try to logic it out. Don't try to sort of question it. Oh, I can't do this. Well, I don't have time for that. Oh, if I do this, I'm not going to be able to do this instead. we can always talk ourselves out of it. Absolutely. But the thing is to if you want to do these other things, try to slot it in.
Good. Okay. Okay. So this is one of the type of personal question I always thinking. That's one of my personal question. Another bigger picture, right? It's about the world. Some people said we are in this kind of a reset moment, the whole world. A lot of people will die from this. Or we can say some people even said about go to from different frequency, higher frequency. A lot of people will not able to go, even some good people. But do you have anything to say about this kind of talks?
Can you explain it again? In terms of what you're trying to?
It's a big reset at the moment, and the world gone a bit crazy. It looks like getting worse. After pandemic and there's war, and then there might be a world war, and maybe a pandemic again. And then natural disasters and it follows. There's so many things going on. It's try to give people a punishment or give people a lesson to learn. You know, what we do? What we doing here? Like,
what we're experiencing is
Yeah.
something called downward spiraling karma, and normally it affects us individually. But right now, because we're coming down lower frequencies, we're all experiencing it together. And so what that means is if we don't address the problem first in the correct way, then we get it again. And if we don't address it again, then we get it again. Now, if we still don't get it again, then the issue starts to come back harder, and therefore we start to go down the frequencies, because we haven't addressed the problem properly. So we get the problem again in a slightly different way, and it's harder, and we don't address it. So we go in a downward spiral. The trick is to recognize that we're experiencing the same thing over and over again, and that's what we're collectively experiencing. We're collectively experiencing that we can't allow ourselves to think in a selfish, individualized way.
Okay, I have a question here, because we all came from the source. So we experience something, and then the source experiencing this through us. That's my understanding. And then if we do not learn, then we have to get it again and again. So we did not learn. Is it because we did not learn, or is it because the source did not learn?
If the source, if we didn't learn, it means the source didn't experience it. But it's a little bit like, if you think of the source, if you think of your body as the source, and then your aspect or your soul as being a quark in your body, right? Then whatever that quark does is experienced on a very, very minute level by the body, which is you. So if the source is your body and you are the quark, then whatever you do, the source experience, but it's so small that there's no emphasis of how the quark is experiencing it, other than it is experiencing it, but it's so small it's not worth. It's so small it's not discernible. So there are lots of things that the source experiences through the interactions of those smaller individualized units of its sentience, us, that it doesn't really hold in the same level of urgency as we do, because it's so very, 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 very small. And so it's quite happy for us to experience individualized free will and learn through our mistakes, even if we make thousands of mistakes, even if we have thousands of civilizations that rise and fall, but never get to the point of self-realization collectively and work together as one. It's a little bit like, it's a little bit like having the odds. It's 1,000,000 to 1 chance that humanity will start to work collectively as one, working for each other, in service to each other, and in service to the environment. It's 1,000,000 to 1 chance. So the source will think, okay, those smaller aspects of myself, have a go with this individualized free will, and let's see if it does take 1,000,000 times to get to that 1 chance. Does that make sense? So it's if we get there within 8 civilizations, then then the odds of us getting there are significantly reduced. It becomes 8 to 1, doesn't it, rather than 1,000,000 to 1. But the idea is to see how long it takes for us in this individualized free will to realize that we have to work together collectively.
Okay.
And the source is doing its own stuff. It's evolving in its own way, and other aspects of its sentience are in other locations within this individualized part of itself that we call the multiverse, and other parts of the universe associated with that multiverse called the physical universe, and the frequencies within it. So we are a very, very small part, but a very, very important part of what the source is experiencing.
Is he
So,
not? Sorry.
So for us to think it's, why is the source, it can't be a caring God letting us do this. Well, actually, it does care. It's interesting to see how long it takes us to wake up, basically. How many times can you destroy yourself before you realize that you've got to work together to experience utopia? And it seems very, for most human beings, that's a really appalling way to think that God might react. But at the end of the day, think of it from its perspective. We're smaller than quarks. Yeah, we're much smaller than quarks. We're much smaller than the Anu, which is several layers of quanta down below the quark. But we have to think of it in terms of, when we are in our bodies, we don't know we get cancer, do we? We don't know that things go wrong. We don't know that our individual cells with individualized free will choose to multiply incorrectly. We don't know it, but all of a sudden it's all over our body, or we spot it in time. That's the same thing with the source, except that it's compartmentalized us so that we can't become a big cancer. We only have a little planet to play with in a very small galaxy.
Yeah.
In a very low frequency.
Can I ask the source a question?
Always.
So, if he will give me a message, what that message will be?
Don't get immersed in the failings of man. Rise above it. Detach yourself from it. Do everything that you do whilst incarnate in a way that you would want everybody else to work. So be the example.
I did not get it the first few sentences.
Yeah. Did you get it, Tom? Basically, the source has just give me a response to saying, be that which you'd want everybody else to be. So if you want the world to be good citizens, working for the benefit of everybody else, being of service to everybody else, treating everybody in equality, giving everybody the opportunity to succeed, then that's the way you should be. You should give everybody the chance to be brilliant, excellent, housed correctly, remunerated correctly, we'll paid correctly, working with the environment correctly. By doing that, you teach others. If you teach just one person, then that's good. If you teach two people, it's excellent over your lifetime, because then there's two people learned from your oneness. And for each of those two people, maybe there's two people of each of them. So it becomes four. And so they start to fractalize. So don't become despondent by the work that you do. You're thinking it doesn't affect enough people. That's the ego sneaking in. The objective is to do it, and do it well, and show by example what you're doing, that what you're doing is the right way to think, behave, and act. And it does make a difference. You might not see it, but it makes a difference.
Okay.
And doing this work now is part of making that difference.
I continue.
Good. I mean, there's going to be people. I mean, I experience it as well, by the way. You know, people who are negative around me, who even close people, you know, are negative. You just have to not accept what they're saying. Maybe some of it can be constructive and is useful, but in general, just let it drip off you like water for duck's back, and just keep doing the good thing. Keep doing what you know is good. What you know is the right way to think, behave, and act to make sure that we're on the road to a more highly evolved state whilst we're here on this planet.
Can I get can I get one as well? Message. Is that different?
It's the same thing, really. I think specifically for Tom. It again did the same thing, but what it's saying is keep moving, keep doing it, keep using different platforms, keep ahead of the curve, as they say. Keep doing it in different ways, keep presenting it in different modalities, so that all people can get a chance to experience. Even when you're doing your everyday job, you know, your university, do everything in different ways. Keep moving.
Okay.
Never stand still. In fact, the ultimate message for you is: you never finish. Never stop. Keep doing it.
Keep doing it.
Keep doing it. Keep doing it. You may change it. You may move. You may change modality, but keep doing it. You may even change totally from what you're doing now over time. But whatever you're doing, whichever way you're doing it, keep doing it. Keep trying to make a difference. That's what's coming through. Keep trying to make a difference.
I can see the challenge there, though.
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking about it myself, actually. Oh, it's be a challenge for me as well to keep trying to make a difference. It's ever so easy. It's ever so easy these days to enter into, you know, gossiping about somebody, arguing with somebody, you know, being on the negative side. It's ever so easy to do that because it's low frequency, and we slip down the frequencies much easier than we do to go up the frequencies. It's like snakes and ladders. Do you know the game Snakes and Ladders?
Yeah.
It's going, you know, it's easier to slip down the snake than it is to climb up the ladder, and it's exactly what it's like with spiritual work. You have to keep on trying, keep on perfecting, keep on doing it. No time for a holiday. There is no holiday. There is no holiday. It's just keeping doing it, keeping doing it, keeping doing it. And there's no end to it, because everything evolves, everything keeps going, everything changes, everything is new because we achieve different levels.
That's important.
Mm.
Yeah.
You've only ever finished when you're taking your last breath.
Is that only for Tom or also for me?
Oh, well, I mean, both of those messages are for both of you, basically.
Okay. The reason I asked for a message is because Thomas, when I told him I'm going to interview you today, and he said, ask if there's a message for me. So he wanted to know if there is a message for him. Then I said, I ask for myself first.
Okay. For Tom, it's detach from human expectations and give yourself, what's the word for it? Little steps to work on. Make sure that everything you do is achievable. Rather than doing one big step, do lots of little steps. Build the confidence up. Build the ability to consider things, to create a considered response to a challenge or an action. Think without ego. Work without ego. I mean, we can't work totally without ego. That's part of what we are. But try to realize that we need to support each other and work with each other. And sometimes that means we have to slow our work down to accommodate the other person. Remember, we're not slowing work down, we're allowing what we're doing to harmonize with the doors being open at the right time. So although we might think that such and such a person is interfering with the work I've got to do today, maybe if they hadn't interfered with your work today, you would have finished too early and missed and the doorway you're supposed to go through would still be closed. So it's allow things to be in the flow. And give yourself achievable goals. They can be small at first, and they can make them slightly bigger, but never make them into huge elephant-sized chunks.
Okay.
In fact, an old manager of mine once made a rather sort of excellent sentence of wisdom. He said, "Eat your elephant in chunks." Do it slowly. There's no such thing as a big problem. Lots of little opportunities to solve the big problem.
Okay. Thank you. I recently have met a young little girl, and I consider she's my teacher. How she behaved, how she was educated, and I feel like, wow, she's so different. Her name is Atia. Actually, just only a quick question: is she an indigo child or a crystal child?
Well, she's not a white child, but she's definitely a hybrid of all three. She's a hybrid of crystal, indigo, and rainbow. The frequencies and the functionality associated with those three energetic characterological aspects of what we are.
You mentioned white child. What is that?
I think we'll focus on the white children in the next interview because there's a lot to talk about the white children.
Oh, okay. Cool. I will write it down. Cool. Okay.
It also gives me a chance to get some updates what's going on with them.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I have to meditate on them, you see, so I have to understand what's going on. But one of the white children was a walk-in to a lady called Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg's body was animated by another soul that was in there just to get that body to maturity. And then that soul walked out, and the soul that we know now, as Greta Thunberg, walked in. And her role is to make us do a U-turn in how we're working with our environment. She's one of them. There's others as well. There's another lady in China. The first one, I didn't meet the child. I met the mother in 2014 in Beijing. That was the first one I met. And the lady, its mother, was pure. You could tell, absolutely perfect. Everything about her was perfect. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. The energy was perfect. The physiology was perfect. Thought processes were perfect. Everything was perfect. Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
When you say perfect, what does it mean?
There was no karma.
Uh-huh.
There was no blemishes on the skin. The body structure was perfect. The thought processes were perfect. Everything was perfect. It was incredible. I mean, really, she shouldn't be here. This mother of this white child, but she had to be that level to be able to give birth to it. It was really absolutely amazing. Since that meeting, as a reading, I've not talked to her again. That's not talked to her again. I think my agent has bumped into her a year afterwards. I had a communication from her a year afterwards, but that was it. That's all I've. In fact, with all the other white children I've known about, I've only known about them remotely, or who the parents will be. So it's quite interesting. And one of the white children I knew about the location of. The person I didn't communicate with their parents. I communicated with somebody who was going to look after that child, like a foster mother or a matron or something, or or an au pair or something. It was really interesting, really interesting. That child was on Hawaii, one of the Hawaiian Islands. There we go. We'll talk about this more in the next session.
Okay, cool.
Lovely.
One last question, then I will leave it to Tom. So sorry, very quick. I recently started hearing things. I never I never heard. I don't know what happened to me.
You've got the frequencies. When you start to hear things, one of the first things we start to hear is in our mind's ear. It's things like, we call it tinnitus, and they say it's a problem with the inner ear. But really what you're doing is you're starting to hear the collective group resonant frequency of all the chakras. So that's what tinnitus is. But when you start to hear that, you also start to hear other sounds. You might even hear might even hear one of the chakras group resonant frequency, which I'm not. The first time I heard one, it was like a harp was being plucked, and I thought, where's this sound coming from? I couldn't pinpoint it. It was coming from within, and it was like I was hearing it on a stereo system. It was that loud. It was one of the chakras.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so when you got the frequencies, you do start to get access to other functions, seeing different things, hearing different things, knowing different things, understanding different things. Yeah.
Only from one ear.
Yeah, usually the right ear.
Okay.
But it can be the left, and it can be both of them. but usually or the dominant ear that people tend to hear it with is the right ear.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah, Guy, I'd like to ask any physical training plans in the future for your training plan? Is like for training for meditation, training, whatever kind of training plan do you have any plan yet?
Yeah, well, my Chinese agent is organising the traversing of frequencies once a month. We're doing that once a month online. It's primarily done by the individuals via the correspondence course, and then I do a 4-hour class online with them. We go through it, and we're also doing the healing workshop, which started in February, and the next and there's lots of homework. I dial in with them once a week to go through to explain what the homework is, and then they do the homework. But the next workshop is in April, which is obviously online. But the hope is that the last workshop I'll go to China for. But so right now that's the way we're doing it. It's all online because it helps, and we can do things from a correspondence course perspective and an online perspective. Maybe next year traveling is a little bit easier. But I think the way we're going to do the healing is we'll do it the same next year, but in an improved way.
Okay.
But that's the only piece of traveling I'm going to be doing. Reference the healing work. So far, everything's online this year, as a necessity because of the COVID situation. But it's working well. It's doing okay. Definitely.
I should work hard to organize a workshop with you in Europe.
Yeah, thanks. That'd be lovely. That'd be lovely. I think next year we might start to see these things happening again. Or we can do them online. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Let's do that then, and then we can send all information online, and then to gather people. We're waiting for so long already, especially me. I never had a physical, not physical, just even online it's okay, like a proper license. And
being in the same room together is good energy. Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Well, thank you both.
Happy out. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Guy. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. And look forward to seeing. I'll send you in the next few days. I'll send you the next day.
Yes, please. We talk about a white child.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, we'll talk about. We can talk all about the white children if you want to for the whole thing. Definitely.
Okay. The record is stopped now, so that's okay, Guy. I see you next time. And just we continue this one.
Okay.
Anyway, once I finish all the video, I can share to you as well.
Okay. Just a quick one. I mentioned Leo's name, and I wonder if it's worthwhile deleting that if you can. It's around the 35-minute to 37-minute mark on our call. So I think maybe because of keeping things neutral, might be worthwhile if you can delete his name for recording.
There's no recording at the moment. It's finished now.
That's okay. No, but in the recording, at the start, I mentioned his name once, and I think that it might be worth deleting it. It's in between the 35. Yeah, yes, it's in between the 35.5 and 37-minute mark. I think it's around there.
Yeah, no problem. I'm not going to put the name there. I delete that part. 30. Just write down. 35.
35 to 37, I think. Yeah.
37. Okay. Yeah. No problem.
If it's not 35 to 30, that's the call. That's in the call duration.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. So it's definitely not beyond 37. It might be a bit earlier, but have a look. Yeah. Okay.
No
Thank
problem.
You, Tom. Thank you, Tom.
Let me do that. Make sure no name mentioned in our show. No problem. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye bye.